Wincinnati Podcast. Today we're going to have the voice of the Bengals, Dan Hoard, as well as the great Willie Anderson. Coming up next.
Yes. Hello, world. We got a special show as always. TJ Houshmandzadeh, Jimmy Chase, Coach Jimmy Burrow.
How do you balance being a professional athlete and family obligation?
These are top 5 Bengals of all time.
All time, man.
Yeah.
Shock the world.
Welcome to the Wincinnati Podcast. He is Zim Hood. I am Ace Boogie. Zim, what's going on?
I'm feeling great. I'm here. Hats off. I'm on my professional voice tonight. I'm working on my stuff. I don't know if I'm going to have a voice like the guy that's coming on the show, but I've been working on my stuff, working on my delivery, getting better. I've been to the gym a lot. I've cut down on my cooking on Twitter, people randomly, and I've actually gone into the kitchen. I've cooked a little bit more. So I feel like I'm better all around the board these days. You see, they're in the refrigerator waiting for dinner now, but we got a show to do. Ace, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. As yourself, I am in the kitchen as well, trying to eat a little better. But that's neither here nor there. This is the big show that people have been waiting for this week. We have Bengals legend Dan Hoard joining us, along with Willie Anderson. We're going to have both of them joining us live, so we'll be able to sit down and talk to both of those guys. And then, of course, it's OTA season, or it's minicamp season, so we'll start to talk about the Bengals getting into that and how things are going thus far. Coming up next. All right, we are going to welcome in the voice of the Bengals, Dan Hoard. Hey, Dan, how you doing tonight?
Zim, Ace, I am awesome. Thank you for having me back on the show. I greatly appreciate it.
Of course. We had to bring you back on. I was a little upset that I had to miss the last one. I know Zim did get my question in from last time, but we got some new ones for you. Obviously, one of the things that a lot of people appreciate that you do, Dan, other than what you do in the booth, is kind of your Twitter updates, right? You bring in your observations that you do on a daily. I want to ask you, for the past week, what are some of your favorite observations that you've seen from the team?
Well, I love looking at the rookies at this stage of training camp. I guess this is phase 2 of the offseason, so it's not technically training camp yet, but this is our first chance to see these guys. So when they selected them, we heard about them, we read about them. After you get past about the third round, you probably don't know all that much about the guys, except for maybe a few of the things that you read going in. So this is the chance to take a look. Do the guys match up to the scouting reports? Today, I've got my stopwatch out. I'm checking Brad Robbins' hang time. I've been watching, Charlie Jones and Andre Yosivash run patterns, see how they look cutting in and out of breaks and things along those lines. So that's really what I've been looking at so far in this off-season OTA period. And it's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy the opportunity to watch these practices.
I see you nailed the Yoshivas name. I'm still struggling with it. On Twitter, we're converting a lot of people over to just straight up Yoshi. I ran it by him. He said it was cool. So we're hoping the Yoshi name sticks. I don't know how you feel about that. But he looks a little bit bigger than what I thought he was, like from my initial just scouting at home. Is there anybody outside of that you feel like when you're looking at them, past or present, Bengals from on the team prior to the rookies, whatever, guys that are bigger or stronger than what you thought, or maybe bigger than what you anticipated?
I would say I would go the opposite direction, actually, and say Jackson Carman looks less big, which is a good thing. He worked on it. He wasn't gigantically overweight or anything like that, especially last year. I thought he slimmed down, but he is noticeably slimmer and trimmer. I think he's done a great job in the offseason. He wants this right tackle job badly. He's going to get his chance to kind of make a case before Jonah Williams is able to practice. So he's not in the bigger and stronger category. He is in the hopefully as strong and a little smaller category.
For sure. So speaking of guys that have left the Bengals, Bates and Bell, have they struggled from a leadership perspective from what you've seen thus far?
No. because during the Zach Taylor era, they've done such an incredible job of prioritizing guys that were college captains or leaders of their previous NFL teams. I'd say that every guy that they brought in looks like a home run in that aspect. Nick Scott has a lot of leadership qualities as far as I can tell. Orlando Brown Jr. is incredible. I had no idea he is the human being that he is. Every time you talk to him, it's a sheer delight. So we may see where Jessie and Vaughn are missed in terms of their on-field communication, especially early in the season. I would imagine that's going to happen a few times. But in terms of the locker room leadership, the fact that Chidobe Awuzie is still here and Mike Hilton is still here and the guys that they brought in that I mentioned, I don't see that being a big problem at all.
When you're looking at guys like out there and then you're saying like what they were before and how we're at this step now, like you're now like 2 years removed out of the full Joe Burrow project. You know, is it like, do you kind of catch yourself like looking back at this and saying like, how did we get to this point? You know, like, is it kind of like, do you have those awe moments at sometimes when you're at camp?
A little bit. It's the expectation level, really. It creates that awe moment that every time you walk in there, you are looking at a legitimate Super Bowl contender, not if everything goes perfectly right, you've got a snowball's chance of going to the Super Bowl. I mean, this team has the expectation that they are going to be in the hunt, be back in the AFC Championship game for a third straight year, hopefully go to the Super Bowl for the second time in 3, and hopefully win it for the first time in 50 plus. So that's the biggest thing that stands out to me. You just know with a healthy Joe Burrow, you're going to be in the hunt every year.
I was kind of giving you a softball. I thought you were going to talk about the headband. I thought you were going to tell me that the headband has changed anything. What were your first impressions on the headband? I see Joe slinging it. Headband, are you a headband on, headband off guy? What are we doing?
You know, bald guy with headband doesn't work. So it's nothing that I would wear personally. That's a really bad look. So when I was at practice today, I noticed a bunch of guys wearing headbands. And in my own brain, I'm trying to remember, did that guy wear a headband before? Or is this the Burrow impact on headband wearing on the roster? So maybe you guys will remember. Was DJ Reader a headband guy before?
I've never seen.
I think I have seen him wear the headband before.
But see, it's two kind of headbands though. You got the straight up athletic basketball style Orlando Brown one. Then you got the one I know Tyler Boyd's not there, but the fold over one you can make it a what we call a shiesty. You could do different things with it.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of guys that wore those.
Well, DJ Reader had the black headband with the Bengals logo, right in the middle of the forehead on today. Looked really good on him. Logan Wilson had one of those on today. I do remember seeing him wear headbands or maybe a bandana or something like that in the past. But there were probably 3 or 4 other guys today where I was like, all right, am I imagining things? Is the headband new on that guy? Is there a headband history? It's the Joe Burrow impact. Anything Joe Burrow does touches to gold. I joked last week when it started to catch fire that he was wearing a headband. I want, stock in headband companies because they're going to sell off the shelves in the Cincinnati area. If the Bengals Pro Shop is not stocking white, orange, and black headbands as soon as possible, shame on them because they'll sell a bundle.
Oh, for sure. Anything, like you said, anything Joe touches or puts on turns into gold. It's going to be very interesting to see fans in headbands. How many of our fans are going to wear headbands to the game? With you being in the building, is there any feeling around the building that the Bengals are closing in on an extension with Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, or Logan Wilson?
Not necessarily. I would say the feeling that I get when I'm there is the Joe Burrow contract is obviously happening. It's a matter of when, not if. I have not detected a single soul inside the hallways of Paycor Stadium that doesn't expect that to happen and doesn't expect it to happen this offseason. So it's coming. It's just a matter of when. I think because of the nature of the Burrow contract, it's hard to pull the trigger on the other 2 until you get that one done, just because the scope of the Burrow contract is going to have such a big impact on the salary cap. I think they put themselves in great position to be able to sign all 3. And I think it's a reasonably good possibility that they will. But I would say the Burrow deal probably has to come down first before they can, have the other two guys put pen to paper.
Do you feel like the Burrow deal is kind of contingent on what Herbert does? Do you think that like maybe they have parameters? You hear Burrow talking about I'm in contact with I'm part of the negotiations. Do you think that the Herbert domino is like the bigger domino that has to fall before we hear anything about the Burrow one, or is it just simply in-house?
I know some people believe exactly what you're saying, that Joe Burrow has done more so far in his NFL career than Justin Herbert has. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's won 5 playoff games. Herbert hasn't won any yet. Herbert's only been to the playoffs once. Therefore, Joe Burrow should get, $1 more or $1 million more than Justin Herbert gets. And, I basically agree with that premise. I guess the only thing that could change that is if we begin hearing reports that, there's a snag with Herbert. Maybe for some reason the Chargers are not progressing toward a contract. And then at that point, maybe Burrow and his camp say, you know what, let's pick the dollar figure that we think is fair and go forward.
How important do you think it is for the team to keep Logan Wilson long-term? And do you think that they can afford that with them also having Pratt under contract?
I do, because of the contract that Jermaine signed. They got Jermaine at a very inexpensive figure, all things considered, I think, for the type of player that he is. So what's the market for Logan Wilson? Is it $15 million a year, somewhere in the 13 to 15 range, I guess? If it's something in that range, I think they can get a deal done. Like I said, they've done an unbelievable job of positioning themselves to be able to retain their best players, as well as any typically step to the cap by the time the season is in progress and they've had to fill in for some injured guys, but they don't go way over and put themselves in cap hell. So there's room, depending on, what Logan wants. If he wants to be the highest paid linebacker in the NFL and get 20 plus like Roquan Smith, then probably not. But if he wants to be among the highest paid linebackers in the NFL and stay with a championship caliber team, then I think they could get that done.
Don't you feel like, though, like a bit, and me and my guys, we were talking about this earlier in like Twitter spaces and where we have like these forums where we talk about it. Don't you feel like the linebacker position, I'm not going to say it's phased out, but the Bengals are really, I feel like that's a position of strength. But then when you follow what they've done in the draft, and I think this is kind of like a 2-part question, if you follow what they've done in the draft and then put the onus on the secondary, do you feel like it kind of has like, and then getting the Pratt deal done, say Akeem Davis-Gaither comes out there and plays really, really well, do you think that it now puts more pressure on, is it the opposite, like where it's Logan Wilson is now devalued with our team, or do they still say, hey, look, this is a point of strength, but their draft is kind of showing you, I think they can go 3 safety looks. The second part of that question is, did you like the draft, and what was your favorite guy out of the draft, I guess?
Well, the first part of the question, by the positions that they've historically drafted, how they prioritize defensive positions. They start with guys that can rush the passer and then defend elite wide receivers. That's been the Bengals' history from the beginning. There have been a handful of exceptions where they've drafted linebackers in the first round, but it's not the norm. And it seems like they draft corners every few years in the first round, and usually pass rushers fairly high, at least, if not in the first round. That's not to say that linebacker is not crucially important, and it is, especially when you have guys that can cover people like Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt can. That's the biggest thing about Jermaine from last season. He went from being a very solid player to a guy that was great in coverage. I don't think people give him enough credit for just how good he was in coverage last year. And that's always been a strength for Logan Wilson. So, unlike the old days, you typically only have 2 on the field at any given time, but those 2 are really important. And barring injury, knock on something, to either Logan Wilson or Jermaine Pratt, Akeem Davis-Gaither is probably not going to be in a position to like make you willing to lose Logan Wilson, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah. You're going to want to have Logan Wilson if you can afford him. So that's kind of how I feel about trying to extend him if they can. As for the draft, I thought the draft was awesome. I do think they probably wish they could have grabbed a tight end. I would have liked to have seen them grab a tight end. It was a great class for tight ends. None of the guys they have are under contract beyond this year. It just didn't match up. When you're drafting late in every round, you typically have X number of players that are graded for that round. So this year in the first round, they had fewer than 15 guys that had first round grades. And fortunately for them, Miles Murphy was one of those guys, and they got him at 28. So they were really lucky. But say in the second round, you've got 3 tight ends with second round grades. By the time you get to the end of the second round, those guys are gone. You don't take a third or fourth round tight end at that point and say, we got to have a tight end. Let's take a guy that doesn't fit that grade, when you've still got great players like, DJ Turner, Jordan Battle or whatever that have that grade. So it just didn't work out because of where they were drafting. Fortunately, with Joe Burrow, I think free agent tight ends are always going to be interested in Cincinnati. CJ Uzama and Hayden Hurst proved have a good year with the Bengals with Joe Burrow throwing to you, and you're going to get paid somewhere if it's not in Cincinnati. So that would be about the only negative of the draft where I'm concerned. But other than that, I thought it was great. As for a favorite player, a guy I'm most intrigued with, I'd say Charlie Jones. I didn't know that much about Charlie going into the draft. I had seen the name. I was familiar roughly with where he was expected to be selected, but I had no idea that Darren Simmons thought that highly of him as a return man. I think Darren gave out 4 basically A+ grades to returners in this draft, and Charlie Jones was one of them. I think he's going to be a great fit in this offense. Hopefully Tyler Boyd's around for another contract, but if he's not, I think, Charlie Jones could potentially be the slot receiver going forward.
So you talked about them not taking a tight end. They also didn't draft a tackle. How do you see that kind of playing out for the Bengals?
Particularly right tackle.
Yeah, I think it's somewhat similar. I think there were probably a couple of right tackles early in the draft that they would have considered taking and plugging in. Once you get past that, look at the guys that are on the roster. They're all pretty much second-round picks that are going to be vying for that spot. Jackson Carman, Jonah Williams was the 11th pick in the draft. Cody Ford was a second-round pick. So they've got guys with pretty good pedigrees that are going to be battling out for that spot. And the other thing I would say about the fact that they didn't draft any offensive linemen, they've taken a bunch in the last few years, and they're all still here. So, they still like Hakeem Adeniji. They still like Deontay Smith. They obviously still have high hopes for Jackson. Trey Hill has, I think continued to improve and get himself in better shape over the course of a couple of years. So they've still got a lot of young offensive linemen that they like in the pipeline, and they're going to let them battle it out and see who sticks.
Do you think that we're as Bengals fans, I know you get a chance to hear what some people kind of say outside of the building. And do you think that it's kind of a bit of PTSD just from the offensive line in general, where it's kind of overblown? I listen to you talk and you say, hey, look, I've said similar things hey, this is a second round guy right here. This is Jackson Carman at this pick. This is Jonah Williams at the 11th pick. This is Cody Ford. These are high premium pick caliber guys that just haven't lived up to maybe their name.
Yeah.
So at what point, because a lot of people say, well, you just got to draft it. You just got to draft it, or you got to just throw more guys into it. Like we talk about Dalton Risner and all these other different guys like that. But at what point do we say these are our guys? They're high draft equity guys or high draft capital picks. Do you think that's something that's overblown amongst the fans, or is it we're just, what is your take on that, I guess?
I think it's perfectly fair because of what happened in the Super Bowl and what happened in last year's AFC Championship game. That's fair, but they went out and got Orlando Brown Jr. So they have fixed left tackle with a 26-year-old guy who's been to the last 4 Pro Bowls. Maybe he's not one of the top 5 left tackles in the NFL. He doesn't have to be. He's proven, he's good, he's young, he's got a tremendous attitude. Check. Left tackle is fixed. The 3 free agents they signed last year, 2 are locked in as very solid starters with Ted at center and Alex Kapp at right guard. Cordell Volson was obviously fine at left guard and should be getting better in his second NFL season. So we're really talking about one starting spot with a bunch of guys battling for it. And I think those guys have decent pedigree. Yeah, it's fair to say that Jackson hasn't lived up to it so far. Cody Ford wasn't great in Buffalo, or he wouldn't have been available. But I think between all of these guys, and maybe LC, if he comes back healthy, you're going to have a competent right tackle. And, Jonah Williams should be that guy. 2 years ago, Jonah Williams was really good. I think his struggles last year have made all of us forget that 2 years ago, he played really well all season long at left tackle. And he had problems with both knees last year. He gutted it out. He kept playing, gave up a lot of sacks. It was not a good season for him. But Jonah Williams is a very competent NFL player. I don't think he's going to have a huge problem.
Dan, is that good enough? Is that good enough?
Yes.
Because you can say 2 years ago he was the best guy on the offensive line. Now that the stakes are higher, is that good enough?
Yes. Yes, I think it is good enough. I think solid, competent at all 5 spots with a couple of guys that are better than that. I think Orlando Brown Jr. and Alex Kappa are legitimate Pro Bowl type guys. The other guys are solid, competent, middle of the pack, probably type O-lineman. That's what you're looking for. There's no O-line out there with, 5 All-Pros. You need to have no weak links. That's first and foremost. You can't have anybody that kills you. And you got to have some depth, because as we've seen the last couple of years, by the time you get to the end of the year, the 5 guys that you begin the season with are probably not going to be the 5 guys that are starting in the postseason.
So since we're speaking of offensive linemen, why not? This is the best time to bring in Willie Anderson. What's going on, Willie?
What up, fellas?
Now, if Willie Anderson can come back and play right tackle, then we've got our problem solved.
No way, not me.
Dan, you see how I set you up with that? I said, man, tell me the truth on this. And then I just had a Hall of Fame worthy offensive lineman just pop out of nowhere. How you doing, Willie? How's everything going? We're here chopping it up with Dan Hoard.
Okay. What's up, Dan? How you doing, Dan?
Willie, I'm great. Always great to see you. I don't know if you heard my analysis there, but is that fair? You can't have a terribly weak link. You've got to be solid at all 5 spots. Mm-hmm. If you happen to have a couple of guys with Pro Bowl ability, that's the hallmark of a really good offensive line. Does that sound about right to you?
Yes, in the perfect world, that is correct. I think it is hard to have 5, all pros, and you were hoping that your guys at your key positions at those 2 tackle spots will be your guys to hold up and give you some consistency. But I think now in the NFL now, these rushes are coming from everywhere now. I was talking to a guy last night with a podcast for the New York Giants, working on Evan Neal this offseason, and we're just talking about how they're hoping they can have 2 solid tackles with him and the left tackle, kid Andrew from
Andrew Brown, I think it is.
Andrew Thomas.
Andrew Thomas.
Yep.
Yeah. So they have 2 really young, good tackles, and they're waiting on Evan to kind of step over the hump because he had the rough rookie year, but I think he can bounce back because he has the talent. So in their future, they have a chance to have 2 really good tackles, and I think every team wishes you have really 2 good tackles, and the other 3 guys can kind of hold up and play at a consistent level. So that's I'm sure every team is wishing for that.
I want to open this to both of you guys. How much is an upgrade? How much of an upgrade is Orlando Brown Jr. at left tackle? We can get Dan and then go into Willie.
I think it's a big upgrade. I mean, obviously, from the way Jonah played last year, as he played through those knee injuries, he didn't have a good year. Now, Jonah from 2 years ago, I think Orlando's probably still an upgrade, not as big of an upgrade. But I just love the fact that this guy's got 5 years under his belt. He's been to the Pro Bowl the last 4. He's still only 26, and he's the 11th highest paid tackle in the NFL. They got him at a reasonable price. He signed for 4 years, and I'm telling you, I could not be more impressed with him as a person. Tremendous attitude, big smile on his face every day he's in the building, developing friendships with Ted Karras and others. I just think that was a home run free agent pickup.
Yeah, and I grew up watching his dad play. I've talked to Orlando several times about his dad over the years. And, his dad was Big Zeus. Big Zeus was an enforcer here in this AFC North. And it's always good to hear Orlando talk about the legacy and what he wanted to leave, playing at the left tackle position, a position that his dad wanted him to play at before he played. And I always tell him too, his dad was one of the first tackles to get paid in the NFL. Period. So I remember being a young guy and following behind Big Zeus, and then also had a chance to say to play in Baltimore. And Zeus used to come in the locker room. He's retired now. He's come in the locker room and still see the guys. But before every game, he stood outside the locker room as the lineman walked out, and he would just stand over guys and hover over them and just hit the damn pass in their heads. So maybe my third game in Baltimore, I wasn't starting yet. Just got there. And Adam Terry was the guy who was playing in front of me at the time. And I'm watching Zeus hit Adam Terry upside the head, gives him a concussion. Like Zeus about 370 at this point right now, 6'9.5". He's hitting every guy. Boom! Adam Terry's eyes goes in the back of his head. I'm next. I said, Zeus, don't freaking touch me. He started laughing. I said, bro, you got your damn mind. I said, now I got to play today. I wasn't planning on playing today. Adam knocked out right now. You know what I mean? So, but good dude, man. And Orlando Jr. is a guy that I definitely gonna think he's bringing a championship attitude about himself to the Bengals, a workmanlike, attitude. I've talked to him several times. Wishing the best for these guys.
With the acquisition of Orlando Brown, I wanted to ask you this, Dan. Like, what do you see? We got a lot of things answered. We got some questions that we asked you about the safety position. What do you perceive as like the biggest question marks going into this upcoming season? I think we cover a lot of good, right?
Yeah, I mean, I still think how quickly the safeties play up to the level of Jessie, and they do. I'm not, paralyzed with fear that they're going to struggle, but man, Jessie and Vaughn had such great communication. They knew what the other guy was going to do without having to verbalize it. They totally picked up every creative thing that, Lou Anarumo came up with in leading that defense. So to me, that's the question mark. Like I said, it's, fortunately, this is a roster right now where there are no glaring weaknesses. They're pretty solid everywhere. But I guess at least to begin the season, that would be my biggest question mark. How quickly do those guys gel?
Well, Dan, we want to thank you for your time. We appreciate everything you do with the Bengals Booth Podcast. I want to ask you one question before you leave, and you can let everybody know where you find yourself. How do you come up with the titles for every episode? Because I know it's song-based, but how do you figure it out? How do you pick it?
Yeah, so we're a few hundred episodes into the Bengals Booth Podcast at this point, and I don't think I've ever repeated a song, so it's getting more and more challenging. Basically, when I'm listening to music in my car or whatever, if I hear a song title or a line in a song that I think might work for a Bengals situation going forward, I'll write it down in my notebook. And then there are a lot of times that it's the opposite way around where, I've got the content of the podcast, but I don't really have a song. So then I scramble and I go to Apple Music or whatever and try to find something appropriate. So they're getting stretched pretty thin, but I'm going to keep doing it as long as I can continue to come up with songs. Dan,
remember, before you go, I thought about this now. I have these songs. I will send them to you. I know you got to go.
Yes.
But I've got songs. I've got 5.
Okay. I love it.
One of my first ones is Nas, Uchi Wally Wally. I'm gonna have to see it because you opening the show with Uchi Wally Wally Shebang Bang. I think that's more like Joe Burrow in the pocket. I also have another one. It Ain't No Fun by Snoop Dogg. I think it's very, very important, but you got to be careful with those lyrics.
Yep.
Also, Atomic Dog, George Clinton is a really good one that I think you can kind of get into. I'm gonna go new school with you. Don Toliver. It's a song called No Idea. I'm gonna send you this. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah, because I'm not writing them down right now, so I need you to send me this when we're done.
And I'm gonna tell you, when you hear this song, I think you're gonna want to sing this. This is when G Unit was in his prime. They had a song called Smile. I want to be the reason you smile. All right. When you hear these 5 songs, I'm telling you, I could do this for you all year because I think you'll get low. My playlists are undefeated.
Yeah.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate everything you do. We love you, Dan. I just wanted to make sure that we hit you off with those. Can you tell everyone where they can find you outside of Bengals games, of course?
Bengals Booth Podcast, wherever podcasts are found, once a week in the off season, twice a week during the season, unless circumstances dictate more episodes. In terms of social media, I am most active on Twitter at Dan_Hoard. You see the spelling on the screen, Hoard. Zim and Ace, always great to see you two guys. Willie, you're the best. Anytime I'm anywhere with Willie Anderson, that's a tremendous honor.
The voice. That's the voice right there.
Thank you, Dan. We appreciate your time so much.
Thanks,
Willie.
Hey, man, why
I wish I would have gotten to ask him about his Ring of Honor votes. That would have been that would have been so far. I know one is definitely
Zim should have gave him the NBA YoungBoy song that got everybody going crazy as hell.
I don't know about that one.
The Ja Morant one.
Oh, Willie playlist be all Jay-Z songs. You should have just gave him one of that. That's all you listen to. I feel like every time.
I used to, not anymore. I'm
you switched up.
I'm more now.
I feel like whenever I see you work out.
Who you listening to now, Willie?
Man, I listen to everybody now, man. But you know what's funny?
You off the young boy.
Rudy and I used to argue like hell, like in 2000, early 2000. I think Rudy got to the Bengals at 01 or 2, I think. So Rudy was a diehard Nas fan, and I was a J fan, a J and Big fan. So back then, I was in that whole little dumb beef with everybody. That you got had to pick a side. So I picked J side, and I never really appreciated Nas until, bro, like the last 15 years. Like that dude is phenomenal, bro. Like and I tell Rudy all the time, I made a mistake back then. Like I should have been on both sides, listen to both sides. It's like the same thing like with Wu-Tang. Bro, when Wu-Tang came out, I could not get into Wu-Tang. Now, I love Wu-Tang now. Like, I'm crazy about Wu-Tang now. So
Ryan, hey, you gotta ask Ryan. Ryan got this Houday. I'm gonna post it on Twitter. He got this thing, my boys over at Shop 23, with my man Mike Eversole. He got this Wu-Tang Bengals mat. Ain't it like a towel or something, Ryan? Isn't it like a mat or something, bro? He got this.
Yeah, it's like a mat and stuff like that.
He got like a Bengals like Wu-Tang joint. It's
really?
crazy, bro. It's dope. It's a blanket actually, but no, it's dope. I got this picture. I'm gonna post it.
That's crazy because one of the first memories that I had of rap music from a young age was I think it was the Enter the Wu album, and it was that Triumph song. I literally know that first verse from front to back. Me and my cousins just knew it all around. And then they brought the show out, so that kind of gave me more of a look into it as well, for sure.
No doubt.
But I'm gonna ask you something about this Ring of Honor, man. Obviously, we saw you get inducted. Congratulations on that again. What was it like being in the Ring of Honor and just that whole night for you?
Man, obviously, to me, the best part was something that they should do more and publicize more, which was the Legends Dinner the night before. Now, the Legends Dinner they had at the stadium where all the guys come back. Unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of my guys back, but a lot of guys did come back. Isaac had a bunch of guys come back. And I was just in the gym a little while ago and ran into Nick Lucci. And Nick is a part of our group text we started up a couple years ago. And I was telling Nick, I said, man, we have to make sure a lot of guys don't. I'll tell you guys this over the years too. A lot of guys don't know the impact that the current fans now are having on the Bengals. Like a lot of the ex-players just didn't know. Like I told you, I met you guys in 2020. I met Bengals Gym 2020 on social media, and we just didn't know about that kind of fan interaction because sometimes guys leave. I said it before. Guys leave with guys who have left with some bad taste in their mouth. You know what I mean? Yeah. But the era of Bengals before us, those guys were successful. You know what I mean? Isaac Kirk, those guys were very successful. So that wasn't in their thing. So a lot of those guys came back. I had some really good guys come back and speak on the phone on the table for me, but it wasn't enough. And this year, I think whoever goes in this year, if it's one of my teammates or if it's not one of my teammates, I want to be back there to support the guys because this is something we've been asking for years. And I was telling Nick today, I said, man, to be honest, the fans may have pushed this a lot to help get this thing started. I said something about it back in 2014 and kind of caused a little stir in the building, but it was because I had just saw the Arizona Cardinals retire my man's jersey, the safety. I forget his name. Really good safety.
Adrian Wilson.
Adrian Wilson.
Yep.
I was like, God, dog, man, everybody's getting that jersey retired and guys going up there. And then 2017, I had a chance to meet Kenny Riley at I think the 50, no, not the 50, the Centennial.
Yep.
Yeah, Centennial thing. And he said to me, I sat beside him at an autograph signing, and he said, man, I sure wish these people would do some things to acknowledge us and to honor our career. That was my first time meeting him, but to hear him want the same thing that we wanted, and we played 30 years after he did, that was a big thing to me. So, man, I was so happy when he had a chance to go into the Ring of Honor with him and Kenny and Anthony and Paul Brown Sr. Then, because I know how much that meant to them guys. I wish we could do. I think we're so behind. I think we should be doing 6 to 8 a year until we catch up for a minute, because there's so many deserving guys. And I said it last year on Twitter. I didn't think anyone from my era deserved to go in as early as I did. I wasn't nowhere near expecting it. I'm so thankful, but I wasn't expecting that because I thought so many guys that played before us and paved the way for the Willie Andersons and all the things that happened for us. Those guys were some real legends. You know what I mean? And I thought we wouldn't go into some time later and some of the younger guys would be saying, hey, man, put Willie and these guys there now. But I definitely had to go in and had a chance to meet Isaac and hang out with him for the whole weekend. They did a superb job. But to me, the best part was the night before the Legends dinner. And I wish more guys would come after that, more fans, because the story guys told and had a chance to talk about just mind-blowing, man. And I felt the love for my teammates. I'm sure Isaac felt the same thing.
When you talk about like offensive line play, a lot of different people have seen like different graphics that Wincinnati Pod has made on you. Like we're getting the young kids hip to your game and everything like that. They don't understand how good you were when you played. 2005 is like, we could go through all these different offensive lines. Given what you know about the position currently right now as it stands, what would you do if you were the Bengals and you had the conundrum that you currently have at right tackle? Your position.
Hey, man.
I got to put you on the spot. You thought it was going to be all...
Hey, man, hey.
I mean, hey. But what would you do? There's no...
Look, I know a lot of these guys, man, and talk to them every now and then. I don't know, man. Obviously, Ace and Lyle was built for a right tackle. He was built to be a dominant right tackle. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, he had the injury, and and that kind of derailed his season a little bit. Because I thought at the end, once he got in the groove, he was playing really good football until he got hurt. I don't know what Jonah's mindset is right now as far as not wanting to change positions or build a team. We've all had our issues with certain things, and I'm sure the competitive in him is he's one to play a spot. You know what I mean? And so you want to play the spot. I had a situation where my backup got franchised on me one year, Stacey Andrews. You know what I mean? And there was a guy that I helped raised up, and I basically coached Stacey how to play football. He'll tell you that happened. But the business part was, I was getting a little older, and he was the next guy up, and they franchised my backup. So the business part is always just sticky, man. And it's something that, sometimes people outside the building, it's hard to put a finger point on, because it's such a sticky situation. You know what I mean? So, obviously Orlando's going to be the starting left tackle, and I think in an ideal world, I've heard the same thing you guys heard, that they want to move Jonah to right, but, does Jonah want to play that? How healthy is Lyle right now? Because I'm sure he'd be the better right tackle than anybody else if you put over there. So, but it's gonna be interesting, man. It's gonna be very interesting.
They got some options.
I gotta put the heat back on you, Willie. Who do you think gets in this year for the Ring of Honor?
Ooh.
Man, I don't know, man. I just feel like there should be more guys go in, man, because like last year, I honestly, God, I had no idea they would pick me. I said, there's no way don't pick me. I was even campaigning, don't pick anybody from the younger generation. Like, there are some guys that have played this game that are not on social media. I think if you look for my era that played with me, I think the guys that are on social media is Ocho, TJ, Takio, Achille, TJ just got on there. I think there's 15 guys that I know that's on Twitter. But think about all the guys from the 70s and the 80s that don't even know how to work freaking Twitter. And their names hadn't been heard in years, you know what I mean? And you just don't know. Like, there's so many great guys. Like, I mean, I would say I can start from the guys in my era, you know, with Corey and Takio and Ocho, but there are so many other guys that deserve it. Like, you know, I'm a huge Reggie Williams fan. I became good friends with Reggie over social media the last couple of years on Facebook, and had a chance to talk to him and hang out with him last year because he came up last year, and that was the biggest thing, man. Like, you know, I played a long time for the Bengals, and in retirement, I asked for a lot of things. I asked for the camaraderie of bringing guys back together, and that week, those 2 days were great days because it brought so many guys back. You know what I mean? The older generation and us just hanging out, talking football, talking Bengals stuff, and I think people got a chance to see a guy like my man Lamar Parrish.
Lamar Parrish,
like, just to hear his stats, but this is a guy that we've never met before,
right?
And I just say, we got, as the Bengals, I'm just hoping. I've told Elizabeth this. We got to keep doing a better job as other franchises do in bringing back the guys and doing things like, you know, communicating with guys. You know, I know you guys give me hell all the time for mentioning Baltimore, but Baltimore sent me stuff like every other 2 months, man. Like, I played 1 year there. You know what I mean? And the Bengals are doing a 180 turnaround as far as doing things how it used to be. So they're catching up. But so, you know, I kind of went around you guys' question. I just hope that people kind of remember some of the guys from the past as well as the guys from the modern era, because, you know, obviously I feel bad for everybody because there's so many guys deserve to be in from both eras, and I just want those guys from the older era to get kind of lost.
So you see some of the nominees right there. You got Jim Breach, James Brooks, Chris Collinsworth, Corey Dillon, Boomer Esiason, David Fulcher, Max Montoya, Tim Cromrye, Lamar Parrish, Bob Trumpy.
Legends, man. These
big time legends
that should have been in 25 years ago, bro. Like, these are legends. Like, it's hard to even go through this right now. And like I'm gonna be honest with you.
Go ahead.
Last year, I felt some what's the word you call it? Like survivor's remorse, bro. Like, I felt bad. Like, I was up there and I was like, damn, like I'm just naming guys who's sitting in Isaac Curtis' section on the Legends night because they went on stage first. And these are freaking legends, bro. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I kind of felt bad that I was before all those guys. You know what I mean? And but at the same time, you know, Corey Dillon was a rock of this foundation, of this organization. He was a rock. You know what I mean? So he deserved it, but so does freaking Boomer Esiason, so does David Fulcher, so does Trumpy and Breach, all these guys. These are freaking legends, man. So Max Montoya, a guy I watched when I was in the freaking 7th grade with Munoz. So it's just hard, man. I wish more guys would go in, but I wouldn't dare, you know, try to pick anyone. It's just too crazy, man.
I think they all get in. It's just, you know, you want guys to smell the flowers while they're there.
Yeah, and they all go get in, but like only 2 go in, right? This is right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's,
like
that's
you know,
hard, man.
But
I tell you guys about, you know, the Hall of Fame thing the other day. Like, just in 2 years now, I'm not tired of it. I'm tired of the anticipation. I'm tired of the, oh, Willie, man, I'm so mad you didn't get out. Like, I don't want to hear that shit. Like, I don't want to hear that stuff. You know what I mean? So like, I don't even want to get into it. Like, when my Twitter page got hacked, I kind of left it alone for a long time. Like, good, I don't want to hear none of that. I don't want any apologies. I don't want people arguing over that. Because I've seen guys before my name came up. I've seen guys over the years just it deteriorates you. You know what I mean? And so with this Ring of Honor, bro, like I felt it for real, bro. I felt it. I want to say after the ceremony, we was all in the hotel bar. I felt survivor's remorse, bro. Like, damn, these guys should have went in before me. And because I grew up watching these guys. I told Reggie Williams, I thought Reggie was the freaking mayor. I was 13 years old in '88 in the Super Bowl. I thought Reggie was the mayor of Cincinnati. Because every time I saw him, he was in a suit and he was in front of the camera like protesting. But they were doing the lockout stuff. I think in like '87, you know. And Reggie kind of led the lockout stuff. So I always thought as a young kid, oh, that guy is the mayor of Cincinnati and he's playing. You know what I mean? And you know, so they're freaking legends, man. You know.
The one thing I was gonna say, I was about to ask you this too, because I was talking about smelling the flowers while they're here or whatever. I just want to go to current real quick. We could pivot back to the Ring of Honor stuff, I'm sure. But I did want to go current. We were talking about Orlando Brown Jr. briefly, and then you kind of came in when Dan Hoard was there. I don't think enough people talk about the run blocking that he does. I don't think enough people talk about like his overall game. Mm-hmm. Can you speak to what you think that Orlando Brown, given your history at the position, can you speak to what you think he brings to the Cincinnati Bengals?
Well, I think as good as he is at left tackle, I think he's still learning the position as well too, because he spent his first couple of years as a right tackle, and to jump over mid-career and go to the Pro Bowl playing left tackle, I think he still can play even better. I think playing with Joe Burrow, I even think his sack numbers would go down. I don't think Joe runs around a lot and improvises as much as Patrick does. And sometimes that's even harder on linemen as people think, people know. So I think him knowing what Joe's going to be at, and Joe's getting rid of that ball and setting up, I think his sack numbers and percentages will go even further down. But like you say though, he's been known as being a guy. He's played in this AFC North Division. He's played in when it's, let's keep it real, for 20-something 5 years. It's been a rumble tumble, big boy 2-10 strap type division. And so he understands that, even though it's turned into a quarterback game now, but it still comes down to who big guys are tougher, who big guys can protect better, who big guys can go kill the other team's quarterback. And I think he's one of those guys that bring that mentality, because this is where he started at. You know what I mean? He started at in the rumble tumble, running the football, but he's been able to show the last several years that he's a pretty good elite pass blocker. And I think, like I said again, I think his numbers will be even better, being more that I love Patrick Mahomes, but he, as a lineman, it's hard to block for guys like that because they're taking risk and running around, and that's part of his game. So I think he played even better under this system right here with Joe, and also with Joe Mixon in the running game as well too.
Speaking of big guys, the Willie Anderson Lineman Academy, you had 2 first-rounders this year, Paris Johnson, Broderick Jones. You've been working with Evan Neal. Talk to the people about what it was like to have 2 of your guys that trained under you taken in the first round of the draft this season.
Man, it was unreal. It was unreal. Paris' mom and him, I've been knowing him since he was 15 years old, man. My brother Floyd Walker was a pastor in Cincinnati who owns Happy's Pizza up there in Corey Blunt. Floyd brought PJ to my house back in his 10th grade year in high school, and the kid had no idea to play offensive line. He's a defensive lineman, and he basically stayed with me for a week, and we started a friendship and a mentorship, as I do with all my guys. But I was real close to him and his mom, and to watch him go from what he was as a 10th grader to being in the freaking draft with him. His mom said to me, "Hey man, you had a chance to do this twice. As a player, you went through the draft, as yourself as the first round pick, and now you're watching him and you're kind of mentoring him." Like Monica's my girl, man. Like Monica was going on recruiting trips telling every coach, "Look, if you can't train with Willie, he's not coming here." I said, "Monica, quit telling these people that you guys are going to hate my guts." You know what I mean? She's telling the coach in Michigan, "Look, in the offseason, if Paris can't train with Willie, he's not coming here." And she's just been so loyal, bro, from the get-go. Like one of the most loyal people I've known. They've never switched up the whole time. They've made sure we've been good. And to see what they've been through as a family was huge to me. He's a local kid. He's been doing some great things in the community before he got in the NFL with his Paris Johnson Jr. Foundation. So I'm thrilled to see what he's going to be, man. He's been a guy that's been super competitive his entire life. He's been competitive So him and Broderick, I met Broderick his senior year in high school here in Atlanta. And to watch these guys go from, high school All-Americans. I had 4 All-Americans that year. And I knew that was my first class of guys. I said, hey, if I was to ever have a class of guys that can go pro, this is a group of guys that can go. And out of those 4 All-Americans, those 2 guys emerged. And we're still hoping the other 2 get a chance to continue their college careers and make it out as well, too.
Yeah, and outside of the first rounders, you had a bunch of other guys go in this draft, too. So we know that the Willie Anderson Lineman Academy is working with some of the top linemen coming out of the draft and definitely putting a lot of talent into the league.
Yes, absolutely, man. So those guys, I met those guys this offseason. We had 5 or 6 other guys that get drafted, 2, 3, 4, and I think 2 more free agent guys that we start working with down in Florida, man. So it's been a great experience in offseason working with these guys, man, because I see how much, a couple of guys I got on FaceTime with, and we were all in tears. My man Juice went 2nd round from Penn State to the Texans. Kids in tears, man, because they put in so much freaking work. Like, people don't understand, when these guys' seasons are over with, they go put in 8 weeks of work to do all these crazy ass drills and testing, and they put their body through so much. And for the guys like the Paris and the Broderick, these guys played 15 games last year, and they started up end of the championship game was the end of January. I don't know, January 5th. Yeah, they start 2 weeks later training for the NFL, and I told Paris, I said, look, man, this year will be your longest year of your NFL career, because you basically won't have a break. From the bowl game to the championship game to the combine to the pro day to the draft to OTAs to summer camps, and the season's here. You know what I mean? So that first year is a lot for those rookies, bro.
Man, I didn't know how you had Juice Scruggs from Penn State.
Yep, he had a bunch, bro.
Love Juice, man.
And all them times, look, we be doing mock drafts and stuff like that on Twitter and all that, and like that's one of the guys. I'm like, bro, I got to target. I didn't know that you was working on that. Like some of the numbers that you just said are pretty staggering when you think about it. I don't know if people paid attention. Like 4 guys getting drafted, 4 undrafted, like guys actively being a part of like NFL teams. Mm-hmm. And when these guys are going out here and around the whole entire country, it ain't that many spots on these rosters for these kids to get on there. So you working with these kids and then them actually getting these opportunities is incredible. Do you find more like you were given your account on how you felt the loyalty from Paris Johnson's mom and all these different things? Does that make you, comparing that to your actual career, does it make you want to go harder for those type of situations? Or is there a parallel for like when you used to play, when you played, where you feel like, man, I'm gonna go so hard for this, or now that you got like this new thing where you're able to actively change someone's life? Like,
yeah, that's big, man. I used to I'm from Mobile, Alabama, bro, and I used to I went to high school from 89 to 93, and I used to pray to God. I said, God, like, why can't back then it was Michael Jordan and Oprah Winfrey, on TV, some 2 famous people. I said, why can't they come to Mobile, Alabama, and just show us how to make it out of here? Like, this is so crazy and hard. Like, I wish I had somebody. Well, my person I did have was my guy, Robert Brazile. Robert Brazile was my high school coach. Robert Brazile just went to the NFL Hall of Fame in 2017. When I met Coach Brazile, he was 4 years out of the league. He retired in 85. He was on the 75. He was Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year in 1975. His college roommate, Walter Payton, was Offensive Rookie of the Year. So I had a chance to hang out with Coach Brazile, man. I dated his niece in high school, and I say all the time, he was my YouTube. There was no YouTube back then. So his stories and things he told us about playing in college and playing at Jackson State and playing in the NFL with the Houston Oilers. And ironically, when I get drafted, all his stories, I started to remember all his stories were about the Bengals, because he played in the league of the Bengals. You know what I mean? And I get drafted, he say, man, there's a guy named Anthony Munoz. Tell him I'm your uncle. I said, Anthony Munoz. I said, who? He said, man, yeah, he's a legend up there. He's a USC. And I had heard of Munoz, but in 88, I was 13 years old, bro. I was watching Boomer, Icky, you know what I mean, James Brooks. At that point in time, I had told myself I was not going to be an offensive lineman, because I was not trying to be a lineman nowhere in hell. I was trying to be a lineman. I was trying to be a defensive lineman, get my name called, my mom knew my name, and for all the girls in my high school to know who I was. Because back then, linemen weren't getting any love. You know what I mean? I didn't want any part of being an offensive lineman, bro. So, but Robert Brazile raised me up like he did a bunch of other kids, man. And I promised God all the time that I was going to do the same thing. And to me, it's just as fulfilling. I was telling you guys the other day, like, 2 years ago, we had 15 kids get scholarships out of my academy. And this is just something I just started up after my son graduated and went to Georgia Tech. I said, I'm going to start a Lineman Academy because I had so many parents asking me for help. I'm like, I can't help you because my son is so behind himself, too. I didn't grow up playing football with my son, and he's playing receiver and cornerback, so we got to go. I have no idea how to play those positions. I thought his recruiting would be the easiest thing in the world. It was by far the hardest thing I've ever done in my life was my son's high school recruiting. So I sat in my kitchen with tears in my eyes like, damn, it's hard, bro. It's just because if a kid is not a Paris Johnson or a Broderick Jones, their recruitment is different. My recruitment, I was #1 lineman in the country. I won Player of the Year in Alabama. My mom had to do nothing but go on the trips. You know what I mean? But now these kids now are fighting the freaking transfer portal. They're fighting. Well, we only want 6'5" tackles. So if you're a 6'3" guard, it's getting hard to get recruited. So, and a lot of times the coaches can't find the kids. So I started my academy to pretty much train, teach, and promote and market high school offensive linemen. As you guys know, I wasn't training a bunch of pro guys because I just thought my heart was into the high school kids. You know what I mean? So I just felt like, you know what? We're gonna make college. We're gonna make high school kids who want to be starters. I've had some 10th grade kids some small guys who their parents thought they weren't gonna be starters by 10th grade year. Freaking 10th grade year, they're 5'11" starting. They got starting jobs. Their parents happy as hell. You know what I mean? I had guys that come to us with no scholarships. We had 15 guys 2 years ago. We put 15 guys in. This year we put in, I think, 6 this year. 7. You know what I mean? So these kids from around the country, these kids are driving in from freaking Ohio. They're driving in from New York. They're coming in from everywhere. And they're not going to be in the college football era and have a chance to go get their degrees for free and leave college with no debt and have a chance to go to the NFL. That means a lot to me because I know that means that we as a company are really changing people's lives. You know what I mean? And we made a business. It's a business. Yes, it's a business. But all my parents, my kids will tell you, we give you way more than what you give us. You know,
sure.
Once you get inside the academy, you start to see and come to the workouts or come to the camps, you see that, damn, like that's a lot more than we thought we would get. And I want to make sure, because I was a parent before, paying for training, paying for camps, and you know what I mean? And my son only made it because he had some really good people who really loved him and cared about him as trainers. And he wasn't just a number. He wasn't just a guy, 45 minutes, come in, get out. You know, so that's kind of one of the reasons why I do 2-hour sessions. Like, nobody's doing 2-hour sessions. That's really bad for business to do a 2-hour training session. Like, you got to get guys in and out. But we really want to make sure they got it. You know what I mean? And it's more than just doing drills. Some could be me talking 20 minutes of my story could help some college guys there. I told a story today to these college guys about being able to master the fear of their O-line coach. Because we all know the O-line coaches are the most wildest dudes on the team. You know what I mean? On every team, they're the wildest dudes. And mentally being able to overcome that is hard for some guys. You know what I mean? Because we're some big guys, but also might be the most sensitive guys on the team, the offensive lineman. Because you're constantly getting beat down. They tell you don't praise yourself, don't talk about yourself, all that crazy old school BS. And if you don't build a kid's mental up, you know, I've seen this position in particular drive guys to out their freaking mind. I've seen it drive guys to alcohol, drugs. They give them depression, but you giving them sacks up and you getting beat all the time and your coach can't help you out. I've seen it happen, bro. So that's why I do what I do for the high school kids and the college kids.
Man, we just talked about the draft. You put 8 dudes into the league, like whether it was signing as undrafted free agents, I think there were 2, and then there were 6 guys that you had drafted all the way from rounds 1 to, I believe, 6. What events and clinics do you have coming up? Because we got something coming up very soon right now in the Cincinnati area. If people are listening, definitely listen to these details, because who better to have represent and train your kid than Willie Anderson? So talk about those clinics, man.
Yeah, so my first camp this year is going to be at my boy John Kitten's high school, at Lakota East in Cincinnati. It's going to be on the 30th and 31st. It's a 2-day camp. It's not one of those one-on-one camps that you see on Twitter a lot, because I kind of hate those camps, because those camps are never really teaching the kids anything. The kids get so stressed out when it comes to one-on-one pass blocking because the camera's on you, they kind of forget everything. So I want to make a camp. It's a 2-day camp. We're going to do a clinic. We're going to a clinic-style camp. We're going to watch film. We're going to show them the proper ways to lift weights. We got food coming. I got guys going to all get these T-shirts. Everybody get gloves. We got gloves coming for every lineman. But it's going to really be a teaching camp. It's kind of been my goals I started doing is to put on teaching camps, not just a 1-day camp we in and out, but a 2-day ordeal where you got to come back and can you remember the work you've done the previous day, because that's kind of how football is. Like football is, you got to carry your information over to the next day. So I want a camp set up on that style of play, and this camp's going to be that. And right now you can go to Eventbrite and put in Willie Anderson Lineman Academy. You can put in O-Line Block Summit, or just type my name in Eventbrite. You can register.
And did you tweet that out recently, like on your Twitter or something?
My pinned tweet right now. You look at it, that flyer right now. You're looking at it right now. Is on my pinned tweet.
And what's the Twitter name so that if they can't look it up the way that you said, to just go and follow Willie Anderson right now?
Yes, my Twitter and Instagram are Big Willie 7179. Big Willie 7179. So that registration tweet is in my pinned tweet at the top of my page. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's somebody listening right now. It might have a kid, might be the actual kid listening to this right now and wants to take that game to the next level. I think y'all should go check this out and go work out with one of the one of the greatest to ever do this.
My man Devin from the big, I have several Bengal linemen coming. Hopefully more confirming to come to watch the kids, come talk to the kids, and be at the camp, watch around. We got several college linemen coming down to work the camp, to be around the kids. We're going to train those guys. We got food coming from Happy's Pizzas, and Ace, I'm still waiting on my people from
Midwest Best Barbecue. We're gonna get you right.
They in too on the food too. So
you got us queued up. You got us queued up right now, because honestly, we gotta go. As a matter of fact, I was gonna tell you, man, I thank you so much for coming on here. We gotta come back and do something like when we get closer to the season too, because I really want to get into some Bengal stuff when we get that offensive line set too.
Let's do it, man.
All right, yes, Willie, sir. We appreciate your time, brother. You already know.
Who
they? So speaking of, we're going to toss it to our good friends at Midwest Best Barbecue with a new commercial.
Welcome to Midwest Fest, home of the G-Funk and Uno Wings. It started out very simple. When you can't find something that you like, you make it yourself. That small dissatisfaction has turned into our family business. Finding a good barbecue sauce without artificial smoke was almost impossible. So my husband, Tim, decided to create his own. Simply Sweet was born in our home kitchen in 2008. Our core values that we have for our family are values we felt were just as important to lay the foundation for our business and have in our team. Hard work, accountability, giving it your very best, warmth, care, and empathy, and of course, loving the Bengals. Our core mission at Midwest Best Barbecue is to be the place where warm smiles and comforting food made with love give you a meal out, but with all the feelings of home. Where our Uno wings make you do the gritty, and our sweet tea always hits the spot.
Hooray! 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 They gon' beat the Bengals! Hooray! 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 They gon' beat the Bengals! No!
Shout out to Midwest Best Barbecue. Hopefully we get them in the Paul Brown Stadium. I'm telling you what, if they do get in there, those brisket fries at the game. I know people talking about Skyline. I like Skyline too. I'm just saying, those Uno wings at the game, if you guys are listening, I'm just saying, it's a W. So definitely, if they aren't at Paul Brown, you can go to 669 Justice Court in Loveland, Ohio. Get that. Let them know Ace and Zim sent you. You can get the Honor Palmer, all of the great stuff that they have. Don't forget, they're also a creamery, so they have the ice cream there as well. if you want to go for a cheat day, definitely be sure to hit up Midwest Best Barbecue.
And if you haven't done it already, please follow them at Midwest Barbecue, and that's BBQ, Midwest BBQ. Follow them. Go look at that commercial. There's a link on there. If you've eaten there before, a lot of people give us great feedback, and they say they love it. If you want to see them get entered in at Paycor Stadium, make sure you vote. They got a link directly on there. It's Midwest BBQ. If you haven't been in the area and had it yet, please make sure you try it because it's amazing.
Yes, sir. So there were some interesting comments made by Isaiah McKenzie. Oh, before we get into that, let's talk about the win totals. That's my bad. Real quick on the win totals, Zim. Over or under, it looks like, is that 11.5 wins? Yep, 11.5 wins for the Bengals. What you taking?
That's crazy. It's just us and the Chiefs, right? Hold on. Oh, he took the graphic away. I was say it's just us. Yeah, I'm gonna take the over, bro. It sounds crazy. I'm gonna take the over. I think that our division, I think the division's just gonna battle it out. We'll have a bunch of 7, 8, 9, 7, 8, whatever. They're gonna knock off some people for us too, beat up some other teams. But I'm gonna go Bengals over on 11.5.
I'm gonna take so the under would be, hold on, so that's like what, 11-6 if we're taking the under. I think they go over, bro. I think that they could get 12-13, honestly. And it's not just being biased, it's based off of them winning those 10 that they won last year. Like,
right.
People have to remember, this was a young team when they first started and caught lightning in the bottle in 2021. And I feel like in 2022, they were still that young team, faced some adversity with some losses early on, had to figure out the too high shell. They figured it out, bro. And I think since then, the only thing that really slowed them down was
12.
injuries.
I mean, they went 12-4.
Yeah, I mean,
no, I'm saying the over
the Bills game. Yeah.
No. Even without the Bills game, they went 12-4.
Yeah, so yeah, I got them taking the over on that one.
You see what I'm saying? They should have been 13-4 for real. So it's not that crazy to me. I don't know.
Speaking of the Bills, Isaiah McKenzie has some wild words from an interview, and some of the Bengals ended up responding to him. He said that if they were in a dome, it would have been a totally different game. Jamar Chase saw this and said it was his first time ever playing in the snow. My first time ever playing in the snow, bro. Just got to play at the end of the day. I'm with Chase on this. Lace him up. Like, what are we talking about? The game could have been at Paycor, if I'm not mistaken. But
Tyler Boyd says we just different, little man.
I didn't hear anybody complaining when they said the game was gonna be at their stadium and not Paul Brown. I'm just saying, now we coming out with this. Put me on record. If it was in a dome, it would have been nastier. It would have been nastier. Joe would have been nastier. This offense would have been nastier. We probably would have put about 80 points on the scoreboard because that's how we were feeling that game. So if you really want to take it that way, it is what it is. But Zim, what are your thoughts on what he said?
Same thing, bro. Same thing you just said. We would have went rampant on them. That Monday night game, you can't tell me nothing about that game, bro.
For sure. Well, don't forget we have our other friend of the show, Fans of Cincy. You can book with them right now. Put it in your deposit for Fans of Cincy at fansofcincy.com. You can book all of your travel, food, tailgating experience all in one place. They got stuff for San Francisco. They also have Jacksonville as well. So check it out. You're going to get your flight, hotel, game tickets, tailgate, all of that information, welcome parties. Check them out at fansofcincy.com. Plenty of people checked in with them last year. Love the experience. Me and Zim did the New Orleans trip. We'll be doing some trips as well. So you can look forward to seeing us. But this has been the Wincinnati Podcast. Obviously, it's going to be coming at you guys every Tuesday live at 7:30 on our exclusive streaming home on YouTube. If you are listening and you love the show, please feel free to give us a review wherever you get your podcast from. We appreciate that. That helps people find the pod. Zim, was there anything that you want to say before we get out?
I was just gonna say, man, I appreciate y'all rocking with us as usual. Make sure y'all check out some of the other shows. We're gonna announce another show very, very, very shortly. We're doing some enhancements on our show as well. I thought also too, just keeping a monitor on the T. Higgins and the Joe Burrow deals and all these different things like that. Just know that I feel really good about these situations. I've always felt good about it. As my 6-word Twitter thing that happened, I feel really good about some of the news that you're now hearing happen like a month later. That kind of echoes my sentiments.
Facts. Yes, Sirski.
Yes, Sirski. Hello, world. We got a special show as always. TJ Houshmandzadeh, Jimmy Chase, Coach Jimmy Burrow.
Time to be a Bengals
How do you
fan.
balance being a professional athlete and family obligation? These are top 5 Bengals of all time.
All time, man. Shock the world.